Welcome back to StabtheDragon Productions as we journey through the distilleries and whiskeys of the Fort Worth and North Texas area. This is whiskey review number 16, and I may end up coughing my way through this. I'm still suffering the effects of, well, COVID in January followed by a good old Texas sinus infection. So I'm still struggling. I missed last week. I'm trying to do one of these per week, but that's not happening these days. But now, I'm doing whiskey reviews of North Texas whiskeys, but once in a while I throw in a military-themed whiskey around some important date, like for the anniversary of the Battle of Mogadishu. I did Young whiskey, Pearl Harbor Day. I did another military whiskey, I think, what was it, Lead Slinger's Rye out of Oklahoma. So, I've done some of those. The rest have been Fort Worth area whiskeys, and we are very blessed here in Fort Worth by having many fine distilleries and breweries, all within easy reach. When I finish with these Fort Worth distilleries, I'm going to broaden out into more North Texas. Like there's some Dallas whiskeys that are good. There's Iron Root up in Denison, Texas. So there's a few others that I'll do, but I'm going to stick to North Texas because when you get into southern Texas or the hill country like Waco, man, there's a lot of whiskeys there. Okay, so that would be a separate category for this study that we're doing. And then I would hope to set up a double elimination tournament after I finish these North Texas whiskeys to really see what whiskeys come out on top. And the next military-themed whiskey that I will probably come up with, I'm looking at probably February 22nd is Washington's birthday, so we may do something around military-themed whiskey for that. So right now, what are we looking at? We're looking at Acre Distillery's Texas Rye. Acre Texas Rye Whiskey. And you can see on the bottle there, they leave the E out of their whiskey. So there you go. Well, this is Acre Distillery. Last video I did was their long-haired Jim bourbon. And that was 88 proof. So I went through the history of Fort Worth and Hell's Half Acre and the history of Acre Distillery for long-haired Jim bourbon. So I don't want to repeat all of that here. But I would recommend that if you want to know the history behind this distillery and Hell's Half Acre, that I covered that last time, and I think that's worth listening to. Suffice it to say that Acre Texas Rye has got a similar history, with the exception being that this whiskey is not named for a historical figure, and most of their other whiskeys are. So that's, they should have come up with something for this one, I think, and they didn't. So I'm going to award 4 out of 5 points for history on this Acre Texas Rye. Marketing, bottle, packaging. The bottle is very straightforward. It's nowhere near as classy and nice as the long-haired Jim bourbon. And really, if you go to their website and look at their other whiskeys, most of their other whiskeys have fantastic looking labels and bottles. So seriously, it looks like this bottle and label were just kind of an afterthought when compared to the rest of the Acre lineup. So I have no idea what they were thinking or not thinking here. I don't know. It's just kind of a boring looking bottle and label. I've seen no advertising for this whiskey at all anywhere, and it's not for sale in any stores. It's only for purchase at the distillery. So that's a shame. So for marketing and the bottle, I'm only going to award 2 out of 5 points. It's got a rubber stopper, not a real cork. So yeah, it's just a rubber stopper, which, it's rubber stoppers are effective. They don't break like corks do. So you're looking at usefulness over aesthetics, I guess. But so for marketing, bottle, packaging, 2 out of 5 points. Composition. The website and bottle inform us that this whiskey comes from rye and barley that is grown in the Texas Panhandle. They are malted, milled, and distilled in Fort Worth. But there's no information on the mash bill besides this. Now, I'm interested because it says malted, and so I wonder if there's malted rye in here, or is it just malted barley? I don't know. It says it's aged for a minimum of 2 years in new charred oak barrels. So the question becomes, why on the label does it not say straight rye whiskey? To be a straight rye, it's got to be at least 51% rye in the mash bill and aged for at least 2 years. Straight ryes cannot be a blend. And so I don't know why this is not labeled straight rye. Is this a blend? I don't know. But some clarity is lacking here. This whiskey is 40% ABV, so it's only 80 proof, which is also a shame. I think it would likely be even better as an 84 to 86 proof. So because of the lack of clarity about this whiskey, I can only go with a 12 out of 15 points. Now, physical appearance. For only being an 80 proof whiskey, this whiskey shows a fairly dark color, and I think that reflects being aged in Texas for 2 years. So this is a 2-year-old whiskey. It's got decent legs in the glass. I don't know if you can see the beading and the legs there in my glass, but really it's pretty oily, it looks like, for only being 80 proof. So physical appearance, 4 out of 5 for a rye, because I think it's a little bit darker than other ryes. And for whatever reason, I kind of like darker colored whiskeys. The nose. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that my nose is next to useless. But with some rye whiskeys and some scotches, I can smell something. And that's the case here. In fact, this has a rather substantial smell of floral rye spice. And again, for only being an 80 proof, I'm amazed at the quality of the nose here. Other rye whiskeys that I've been able to smell have been 90 proof. And so that tells you that, man, this is punching above its weight. If I can smell this, I wonder what somebody with a good nose could smell, because this smells wonderful. It's very floral, very rye. 9 out of 10 for the nose. I think that's maybe a first for me. Taste. On the front, there's a tad bit of sweet and spicy, but it moves quickly to the rye flavor, which is very herbal and flowery, along with rye bread maybe. This middle palate of spice, rye spice, is strong and delightful. Again, for an 80 proof rye to have this much flavor packed in here, that's amazing. Previous ryes that I've had that have had this much rye spice were a very high rye in their mash bills, either 100% rye or 95%, something like that. So I think that's what's going on here with Acre. And maybe, you know, if they've malted some of their rye in here, that may account for some of this. But this is a strong rye that makes other rye whiskeys pale in comparison, actually. I mean, this is perhaps the strongest rye whiskey I've ever had. I'm going to love doing a competition, maybe a rye competition. All the ryes that I like, because I really like rye whiskeys. And this, man, this could be the top-notch winner right here. So I've got to rate this one for flavor and taste really high. 24 out of 25, and I think that's the highest rating I've given any whiskey for taste. Mouthfeel and finish. Again, for an 80 proof, this whiskey has a more rich mouthfeel than most other 80 proofs I've tasted, except maybe some scotches. And the finish gives a nice welcome burn at the end. That's another surprise for an 80 proof rye. And it's the good kind of burn. This is not the ethanol alcohol type burn. This is, I'll look for a decent burn in a whiskey. I've got some smooth whiskeys that are wonderful too. I mean, Irish whiskeys are great, but I really do like a little kick at the end, and I'm getting that here. And I think I'm picking up some barrel char. It may be the Texas funk. I mean, 2 years aged in the heat of Texas, it should have a little of that Texas funk going on there. But the back end is where I'm getting either char or Texas funk, just a little bit. The rye spice lingers here with a long finish as well. Man, that's an amazing rye. So for mouthfeel and finish, 14 out of 15 points there. Yeah, that's very good. Now let's talk about price, value, and availability. I paid $39 at the distillery for this 750 milliliter bottle. It's not for sale in any retail stores yet, and that's a crying shame, because this is probably my favorite rye so far. So $40 for a craft distillery rye is a fair price for sure. But for this high of a quality product, this is an outstanding price. So why is it not in stores? I don't know. It's a shame. Now, what do I have to do with scoring this? Because the price and the value are great, but availability, not so much. So I've got to knock it down to a 7 out of 10 because it's just not available unless you go to the distillery. And I don't know what the laws are. I don't know if somebody from out of this area or out of state can contact the distillery. I don't know if they ship it. I have no idea. I've purchased 2 whiskeys from out of state. I live in Texas, and I've got a 10th Mountain Rye out of Colorado. I've got that one delivered, and then an Irish whiskey that I got out of New York. So, twice I've been able to order ryes online. I don't know if Acre Distillery does that. I don't know what the laws here are, but so if you're not here in the Fort Worth area and don't want to make the drive to the Acre Distillery, then you can't get it. And that's a shame, because this is really a fantastic rye whiskey. So neat or mixer, 5 out of 5 points here for a neat rye whiskey. I mean, if you have to like rye, there's some people who don't like rye. Okay, if you like rye, this is the bomb. It really is. So despite its low proof, it would likely be still good in some mixed drinks because the flavor is so rich. I don't drink mixed drinks, so I don't really know how that works. But I'm telling you that the flavor on this is so strong that if you like that rye flavor in a mixed drink, man, this would work. Absolutely. In fact, I may actually go to the distillery and try a mixed drink with using this whiskey just to see what it's like, because this is so good. Bonus points. Okay, if you've watched any of my videos, hey, Fort Worth distilleries, and so that's high on my bonus category, plus the quality of this product, so 5 out of 5. Bonus points. It's made here in Fort Worth. It's a high quality whiskey. Absolutely. So my total points, 86 points. And that got knocked down because of its availability and its lack of clarity on the composition. But still, 86 is pretty high for me. My letter grades tend to be higher than the point grades. And so this is a solid A. Absolutely. Man, this may be, I'm going to change that. This may be this is an A+. This is definitely, probably it's going to be my favorite rye whiskey. So, so far. you know, and again, I have to do a head-to-head competition, and I'm giving this an A+. So recommendations. If you live here in the DFW Metroplex and can make it to Acre Distillery, or if you're doing a tour of the Texas Whiskey Trail and you can make it to Fort Worth, I strongly recommend. If you like rye whiskey, you've got to try this. This is a must-buy. I get it. Rye is kind of the underdog of the whiskey world, but it's also a growing field. I happen to be a rye guy. I mean, the first rye whiskey that I tried, I think, was Wild Turkey 101, and loved that. Then 1776, did that, fantastic. But those are two very spicy, hot ryes. Okay, this is not that. This is the very floral rye bread flavor whiskey, and so that's kind of the opposite end of Wild Turkey. I like this probably better than Old Forester rye, which is fantastic. Definitely better than Bullet rye. Not really a fan of that. This ranks up here. 10th Mountain rye is really very good. Boy, I'd have to do a head-to-head competition between Acre Distillery and 10th Mountain out of Colorado. Leadslinger's rye out of Oklahoma, prior to this one, was probably my favorite rye. So I'd have to do head-to-head competition there as well. So I really cannot recommend this rye any higher. I will definitely keep this one in my cabinet and replace it whenever I empty this bottle. Okay, well, cheers. That does it for Acre Texas Rye. So this is Stab the Dragon signing off for now. If you drink, drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. And we hope to see you next week. Who knows, maybe with another Acre Distillery product. I would have to go to the distillery and see, but Acre Distillery and Firestone and Robertson probably make the most products, maybe Oak and Eden, but those three make a wide variety of products, and Acre Distillery's got a lot to offer. So we'll see you next time on Stab the Dragon. Out here.